I'm here delighted to announce our keynote speaker, the Honorable Senator Edward J. Markey, United States Senator for Massachusetts, a nationally recognized leader in technology policy and beyond, and a distinguished legislative career spanning decades in both the House and Senate. Throughout his tenure, Senator Markey has helped shape some of the most consequential technology policy frameworks of our time, with achievements spanning energy policy and environmental protections, telecommunications, and digital privacy and accessibility. He served 37 years in the U.S. House of Representatives before being elected to the Senate in 2013. He had so many landmark contributions, including authoring the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, COPPA, in 1998, the Internet Freedom Preservation Act in 2006, the first net neutrality bill introduced into Congress, the Waxman-Markey Climate Bill in 2009, the only comprehensive climate legislation ever to pass a chamber of Congress, and the 21st Century Communications and Video Accessibility Act, 2010. Today, Senator Markey continues to lead on emerging issues such as algorithmic bias, artificial intelligence and civil rights, AI environmental impacts, management of individuals' neural data, and children's online safety. Born in Malden, Massachusetts in 1946, he earned a BA and JD from Boston College, served in the U.S. Army Reserve, and began his public service in the Massachusetts State House, representing Malden and Melrose. It's my distinct honor to welcome the Honorable Senator Edward J. Markey.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for inviting me here to MIT. I grew up in Malden, as you just heard, and it's not easy to grow up 5 miles from MIT. My mother, she used to be able to do calculus for fun with me, even though she never went to college because her mother had died when she was 17, so she had to raise her 3 younger sisters. She was president of the senior class, and so she just had to stay home, and then she had me and my 2 brothers and just started all over again with another family. But I was the oldest. And my mother, when she got disappointed in me because she didn't get to go to college, she would say, "Eddie, you have to learn how to work smarter, not harder, or else we're going to donate your brain to MIT as a completely unused human organ for experimentation." So Ma, here I am, Ma. I'm at MIT and talking about technology, but of course it's the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, right? And that's what you have been doing since your very origin. My wife is actually on the board of advisors of the MIT Media Lab, and just completely honored to be here with you today. And I want to thank the president and the provost, Director Ortiz, Professor Zuber, everyone, all the MIT leaders who are here, who focus upon these issues. So as a member of Congress, when I was elected 49 years ago, Tip O'Neill, who was the Speaker of the House, asked me, "Which committee do you want to be on?" So essentially, I asked to be put on the MIT committee, because the committee that I asked to be on was the Technology Committee, jurisdiction over all of telecommunications, all of healthcare, all of energy and environment, or to put it another way, the future, right? The issues that we would have to deal with. And that's what I've done through the entirety of my career. So I can tell you that technology policy is not abstract, it is personal, it is moral, it is essential. And we just have to be careful about the era that we're in right now, because science and technology and those policies are now being questioned. Tip O'Neill, who was the speaker, who came from Cambridge, used to say that all politics is local. But in this era in Washington, all politics is loco. And when it comes to science, when it comes to technology, we just have to make sure that we protect, that we put the safeguards, we put the guardrails properly around each and every one of these areas. So for the last 50 years, and I was elected to Congress as the center was starting. And I just started to come over here, actually, right from the very beginning. In the past 50 years, if it's taught us anything, it's taught us that technology is power. And who controls that technology has the power. That technology is imagination in turning bright ideas into brighter futures. And so that's why I am so honored to be here with you today, to talk about the power to connect, the power to inform, the power to transform economies, the power to shape minds. And that power comes with a dark side as well. There's a Dickensian personality to these technologies. They're the best of technologies and the worst of technologies simultaneously. They can enable, they can ennoble, they can degrade, they can debase. That's the choice we have to make about these technologies, because they are dual personality technologies in each and every instance. And that power to have a dark side, that's the power to surveil. That's the power to divide. That's the power to exploit. That's the power to pollute. That's the power to misinform. That's the power to dehumanize. And as we race headlong into the AI era, those stakes have never been higher. The most powerful technologies of our time, such as artificial intelligence, don't just reflect human choices, they shape those choices. They decide what we see, how we work, and even how we think. Today, the bad actors too often have the upper hand. And I'm not just talking about the big tech boys club that sat right behind Donald Trump at his inauguration. Algorithms trained on biased data are quietly rewriting civil rights law in real time, determining who gets a job, a loan, or an apartment. Massive data centers are spreading across our communities, guzzling water, drawing gigawatts of electricity, hiking electricity costs for everyone else, and leaving behind a destructive environmental footprint. Social media platforms have concentrated power into the hands of a few billionaires who profit by amplifying outrage and keeping our kids addicted to their platforms. And companies are deploying AI to decide who gets a job, when they work, how fast they move, and how much they earn. George Orwell, welcome to 2025 in the United States of America. But history shows us that we can rewrite the rules. We can ensure that power serves the public interest, not private profit, and that has been my life's work. So I used to come over here to meet with Jerome Wiesner in the 1980s as I took over as the chairman of the Telecommunications Committee. And President Wiesner would say to me, my job was to move America from analog to digital with all the laws that I was then the author of. Not one American home had broadband in 1996. And so Jerome Wiesner would then bring at this new center that Nick Negroponte was running, okay? the MIT Media Lab, and I would come over here on a monthly basis and just talk to them about what the future should look like. And then they would impose this responsibility on me to move the society to digital because of all of the incredible benefits. And in the 1990s, when TikTok was still just the sound of a clock made, and X was just a letter in the alphabet, I then helped to usher in this information revolution with my 3 big laws. Back then, the key question was not about algorithms or AI, it was about access. Would the information age be democratic or would it be divided? Well, broadband technology spread across the country after the passage of my 1996 Telecommunications Act. I knew that not everyone would have an equal chance to access the internet. And that's why in that very same law, I authored the E-rate program, the education rate program. I wanted to call it the Ed rate, but my staff would not let me do that. But so far, it has spent $70 billion to make sure that the schools in Roxbury and Chelsea and Lawrence and Harlem and South Central LA have those computers on their desks. It was the first time ever that an educational technology was deployed at the same rate for poor children as rich children. I knew that that was going to be absolutely critical. That's why I wrote that into the law. And so far, it's $70 billion. Every time you make a phone call, there's a little tax on it that helps to ensure that those kids in Roxbury have access to the technology. And they have the exact same aptitudes as the kids from the suburbs, but you just have to give them that access. So tens of billions of dollars have been invested in wiring schools and libraries, connecting millions of kids to the internet, and that was technology as power for good. But each new era brings new risks. And now we stand at the dawn of another transformation, artificial intelligence. The revolution in the 1990s led to a dot-com bubble in the year 2000. That was the consequence of having a broadband revolution. Pets.com didn't make it, but we had the revolution. So that was the first generation of AI. That then made it possible for Google, eBay, Amazon, Hulu, YouTube. They're not existing in an analog world. And very briefly, we just transformed into a place where these algorithms, these powerful algorithms, could begin to be deployed, which was the goal. It was to break down the AT&T and the cable industry monopolies so that we could have that revolution. That was my goal. It was the biggest antitrust bill in 50 years, breaking down the monopolies. It was good. It was helpful. In 1993, I had moved over 200 megahertz for the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th cell phone license. The incumbent phone companies were charging 50 cents a minute, and it was analog. By 1995, 2 years later, everyone had a flip phone in their pocket. And 7 years later, a smart kid out in Palo Alto was able to put a computer in everyone's pocket called an iPhone. You just needed to deregulate to see how this technological revolution could be unfolded. That was my vision. That is what I was trying to accomplish with my legislation in the 1990s. But now we have to ask the question of who controls that power? Who benefits from that power? Who bears the costs of that power? We have a choice to make. We can allow AI to deepen inequality, decimate our environment, and entrench corporate monopolies, or we can build a future where AI strengthens democracy, safeguards rights, and helps to save our planet from the climate crisis. So let me offer 4 areas where we must act with urgency and with moral clarity. First, the environment. AI is often conceived as an invisible force, lines of code, neural networks, the cloud. But behind every chatbot and image generator is a physical world of concrete steel and power lines. Training a single large language model can consume as much power as 4,000 American households use in a single year. causing companies to restart dirty coal-fired plants and raising electricity costs for Americans across the country. Data centers also consume significant amounts of water for cooling, drying up wells in already water-scarce communities and polluting water supplies with toxic coolant chemicals. So that is why I have introduced the AI Environmental Impacts Act, which would shine a spotlight on the environmental risks from the AI revolution and allow us to chart a path forward that leaves no one behind. There is an estimate that there will be a 2% increase in electricity demand per year for the next 10 years because of AI. And the compounded number is a 30% increase in 10 years. Is that going to be wind and solar? Is that going to be geothermal? Or is it going to be coal-burning plants? Is it going to be natural gas? Are we going to set off a pollution bomb because of AI in the country? Or are we going to ensure that as we move into this era that we're simultaneously ensuring that we're going to control the side effects of AI? Now, many say, oh, AI might find the answer to climate change. Well, in the meantime, they're going to set off a pollution bomb. And so it is imperative for us to ensure that we deal with the very predictable, already occurring environmental side effects of this AI revolution. And to the extent to which offshore wind projects are getting killed, solar for all is being killed, we're reducing the amount of alternative energy that is being constructed, and we're seeing instead plugging into old coal-burning plants across the country, reviving them. But ultimately, it's those communities where the AI facilities are going to be constructed that are going to once again be the environmental justice communities that we have been trying to move away from. Second, civil rights. Too often, artificial intelligence suffers from the garbage problem. Companies feed garbage-based data into a model, and they receive garbage-based results. In other words, garbage in, garbage out. I introduced the AI Civil Rights Act, endorsed by almost every civil rights group in the United States of America, to stop artificial intelligence from supercharging pre-existing bias and discrimination in society today. My bill would ensure that companies test and fix biased and discriminatory algorithms used in making critical life decisions such as employment and banking and healthcare and the criminal justice system. We cannot allow AI to stand for accelerating injustice. The rules we have in the physical world must apply in the AI world. And we need an AI Civil Rights Act in order to make sure that right from the get-go we are anticipating the malevolent use of this technology that just resurfaces all of those discriminatory practices which we've worked so hard to root out of our society over the last 50 or 60 years. Third, social media. Our digital public square is increasingly governed by AI-recommended engines that decide what billions of people see and believe. These systems are designed to maximize engagement, not enlightenment. And when these same systems are pointed at children, at teenagers, the results can be devastating. And that's why I am leading the fight for the Children and Teens Online Privacy Protection Act, which would update my law from 1998. I wanted to have a uniform privacy bill of rights for all Americans after the 1996 Act, but the largest companies blocked it. And so I came back in 1998 and I passed the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, which is for kids under the age of 13. And whenever you see a story about YouTube or some company being fined $200 million for violating children's rights, that's my law from 1998. But it's not good enough. We can see right now that we have a teenage and child mental health crisis in the United States of America. In 2023, 1 in 4 teenage girls in our country contemplated suicide. These are numbers from the CDC and the Surgeon General. 1 in 8 teenage girls attempted suicide in the United States of America in 2023. 1 in 5 LGBTQ youth attempted suicide in the United States of America in 2023. And the Surgeon General is pointing an accusatory finger, not exclusively, but in a substantial way towards the social media culture, which we have in our society right now, that we have not done enough to curb in terms of the impact on younger people in our society. What my bill will do is update our children's online privacy law for the age of AI. What my bill is going to do is ban targeted advertising to kids and teens, require online platforms to minimize data collection, and gives young people and parents new rights to protect their privacy, including telling a company they must erase any information they have gathered about that teenager or child. If a 14-year-old girl goes online to get information about bulimia or anorexia because she has it, and then starts to get bombarded with ads about bulimia and anorexia, and the only people who even know about this condition are the mother and father, they haven't told anybody else, this is a new world in which we are living. When I was a boy, the oldest, and salesmen used to come down the street and ring the doorbell trying to sell things, my mother would just say, lift up the letter opener and just say, your mother's not home. And then I would turn around. And I would say to my mother, but you are home, Ma. And she would say, I'm not home to that salesman, Eddie. I have 3 young boys here. Your father's at work. That man is not getting into our living room with your father not home. Well, that man today is getting into every living room and every bedroom of every child in our country. The privacy protections of all preceding generations of parents is now broken down. And we have to provide legal protections for those parents and those children when predatory practices are being implemented for monetary gain by these companies, or else we are setting ourselves up for a moral and mental health catastrophe in our country. Social media should be a tool for connection, not for addiction. And that is what that is what our society is allowing to happen in our country. We have to reclaim agency in our online lives and ensure that AI algorithms serve us. So as bad as it is right now, as AI continues to unfold, it's only going to get worse. It is only going to become more dangerous for our society. Artificial intelligence will affect every single part of our lives. And fourth, workers. Artificial intelligence is also transforming the American workplace not only by replacing workers, but also by controlling them. AI systems now schedule shifts, assign tasks, track keystrokes, monitor eye movements, and measure productivity down to the second. George Orwell. They can decide who gets hired, who gets a raise, who gets disciplined, who gets fired. And that's why I've introduced the Warehouse Worker Protection Act and the Right to Override Act. And while I'll be introducing the Stop Spying Bosses Act and the No Robot Bosses Act later this year. All these bills are guided by one principle. Workers must organize the future, not corporate bosses or big tech. And again, because I authored the bills that unleash this era I feel a great moral responsibility to make sure that we talk about each and every one of these areas. Technology should lift up workers, not exploit them. Across all of these examples, the environment, civil rights, social media, and workers, the theme is the same. Small d, democratic control over technological power. We cannot let unelected and unaccountable corporations decide the rules of our digital lives. Just as we built the E-rate program to democratize access to the internet, we must now infuse democratic principles into AI. And that means transparency, that means accountability, and that means participation, giving citizens, not just corporations, a voice in shaping the technologies that shape our world. So as we look ahead, let us remember, technology is power. And the question is not whether that power will exist, it already does. The question is who wields it and to what end? Will we allow AI to deepen the divides of our society, to burn through our planet's resources, to entrench the wealth of a few, or will we insist that it serve democracy, equality, and sustainability? The answer will depend on the courage of policymakers, the conscience of technologists, and the participation of citizens. Frederick Douglass said that power concedes nothing without a demand. Well, this is our moment to demand that the power of technology serve the public interest, to demand that innovation promotes inclusion, not inequality, to demand that AI works for us, not the other way around, to ensure that AI stands for all included in that AI society future which is unfolding right now. For half a century, MIT's technology and policy program has helped train the leaders who make these demands with clear principles and moral clarity. You have built a bridge between knowledge and governance, and it has never been more essential than it is right now in our country. We must set the standard for the rest of the world, because together we can build a future where technology empowers, where it enlightens, where it sustains. And that's what you've done for the past 50 years. And I'm confident it's what you're going to do for the next 50 and beyond. I had the honor of working with President Jerome Wiesner in the same way I have the honor of working with President Kornbluth right now. And I know that at its soul, MIT is trying to ensure that technology and science is used for the betterment of all of humankind. And that's why it's always been my privilege to work with you, to partner with you. And I thank you, I congratulate you on your 50th anniversary, and I welcome you to, in each one of you, right down to the freshmen who might be here, through the graduate students, through the professors, to please at any time that you think that there's something that Congress and the Senate must deal with, to please call me. Please let me know what you want me to raise my voice as a concern. We don't have to worry that the good parts of AI are going to be touted. It's the other side, the sinister side of cyberspace, that we need to put the protections in to protect everyone. So thank you so much for the honor of being here and for the honor of being your United States Senator on the floor of the United States Congress in this particular point in our country's history. Thank you all so much for having me here.